The Earth Plane by Eric Dubay, illustrated by Canal art. When I was your age, growing up in the country, on clear summer nights, Grandpa and I would lay on the grass watching the stars. My favorite was Polaris, the bright North Pole star, positioned perfectly central amidst the constantly circling constellations, like a noble king on his throne, proudly presiding over his twinkling kingdom. Grandpa taught me all 88 constellations, from Andromeda to Vulpecula, and we would watch them for hours while he told incredible ancient fairy tales of heroes like Hercules and his 12 labors, the prodigal son's journey through the 12 houses of the zodiac. On the last night of summer vacation, Grandpa and I were staring at the stars, when he pointed up and said, "Polaris, my boy, sits directly above the North Pole, which means the exact center point of Earth and the exact center point of the heavens are perfectly aligned. Polaris is like God's eye in the sky, watching over his creation, and the other stars reaching out at different angles are like his angels, bringing light to even the darkest corners of the world. The North Pole is like the base of a gigantic celestial tree reaching to heaven, with Polaris, its highest leaf, on the tallest branch, directly above the trunk. The other stars are like all the other leaves on all the other branches, and every day the great tree in heaven makes one circle in the sky around its trunk, just like every year every tree on earth grows a new circle around its trunk." Our first day back to school started the next morning, with the bell ringing and my new teacher, Mr. Tyson, spinning a large globe on his desk. "Tell me, students, what shape is the Earth?" he asked, looking at us over the top of his glasses. I glanced around to see if anyone would answer, but everyone was expressionless, gawking at the spinning globe like a hypnotist's swinging pocket watch. "Anyone?" he asked again. "What shape is the Earth?" Looking out the window, at the perfectly flat horizon, I remembered flying in my grandpa's airplane and seeing the same flat horizon all around me then. In a moment of confident excitement, I raised my hand and exclaimed, "The Earth is flat!" Mr. Tyson quickly swung his head around, squinted his eyes at me for a second, then burst out laughing so hard that all the other students couldn't help but join in. Embarrassed and confused, I slumped back and crossed my arms. When everyone finally stopped laughing, Mr. Tyson said, "Silly boy, the Earth only looks flat because it is so big and you are so small. Imagine an ant on a basketball. For him, the horizon would seem flat even though he is really on a ball. Earth is like a spinning basketball, and you are like an ant standing on its surface." Mr. Tyson walked to the blackboard and drew a solar system diagram as he continued explaining. "Not only does the Earth spin 1,000 miles per hour around its axis, Earth also spins 67,000 miles per hour around the Sun. Meanwhile, the Sun, Earth, and every planet in our solar system is already spinning 500,000 miles per hour around our corner of the Milky Way galaxy, while the entire Milky Way galaxy is shooting off millions more miles per hour away from the Big Bang explosion which created the universe." Walking home from school, I couldn't stop thinking about what Mr. Tyson had said. If Earth was really a big ball spinning around itself, rotating around the sun, revolving around the galaxy, and shooting off through the universe, then why does the North Pole star never move? Why haven't the constellations ever changed position or shape in thousands of years? Night after night, year after year, Grandpa and I watched Polaris appear in the exact same spot, while all the other stars and constellations always maintained their relative positions to each other. If Earth was really traveling several millions of miles per hour in several different directions, why could we watch every star in the sky making perfect circles around Polaris? If Earth was really traveling many millions of miles per hour in various directions, the star trails Grandpa and I often photographed should have shown irregular spiral shapes, not perfect circles. Upon arriving home, Grandpa could see the distress on my face and asked what was wrong. I dropped my book bag to the floor and yelled, Mr. Tyson said Earth is a spinning space ball. Grandpa and Grandma suddenly both burst out laughing so hard that I couldn't help but join in. "Oh, well then, don't fall off the bottom of the ball, dear," Grandma said, wiping tears from under her glasses. "And don't get motion sick from all that spinning, my boy," added Grandpa, slapping his knee. That evening, we laid awake long past my bedtime, stargazing. "It doesn't make sense, Grandpa," I said, becoming increasingly frustrated. "How can the constellations never change if we're flying millions of miles per hour in several different directions through the universe? If that's really true, then the night sky should look different every single night." "You're absolutely right, my boy." Grandpa sighed, and his usually jovial face turned serious. "I'm going to tell you a secret now. The world's biggest secret. Very few people in their lifetimes ever get to know this incredible secret, and the few who do are usually forced to keep it to themselves. The secret is actually something plainly obvious for everyone to see, but when you try telling people, they just scoff and call you crazy. That is how this incredible but obvious secret has been kept so well hidden in plain sight for nearly 500 years. "Tell me, Grandpa," I interrupted, unable to contain myself. "What is it?" "From the beginning of recorded history, and for thousands upon thousands of years, every ancient culture around the world knew for a fact that Earth was not a spinning space ball. They knew from observation, experimentation, and common sense that Earth is a motionless level plane, and that the sun, moon, and stars all revolve over and around us. They knew the North Pole to be the magnetic monopole center point of Earth, with Polaris, the North Pole star, positioned directly above. They knew, just as you do from years of sky watching, that Polaris is the only motionless star in the heavens, while all the other constellations revolve perfect circles around it." The next day at school, Mr. Tyson continued explaining his version of the universe. In the middle of the blackboard, he drew a huge circle to represent the sun, with 9 smaller circles of various sizes to represent the planets. The planets, he said, were spinning space balls similar to Earth, and Earth was in fact the 3rd planet from the sun. He then showed us a colorful poster with beautiful images of each one. "Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto all revolve around the sun," Mr. Tyson said. "The Earth spinning around itself causes day and night, while rotating and wobbling around the sun causes seasons." "Wait a minute," I said loudly, with a sudden burst of confidence. "My grandpa and I watch the stars and often see Mercury and Venus shining bright all night long. But for your diagram to be true, someone on Earth should only ever see Mercury or Venus during the daytime." Mr. Tyson glared at me without blinking or speaking, and slowly raised an eyebrow. The other children murmured, then went silent. "See," I continued, "if Mercury and Venus are closer to the sun than Earth, then we could only ever see them while the sun is out. It would be impossible to see them at night, because Earth is facing the wrong way." Mr. Tyson finally blinked, lowered his eyebrow, then turned back to the blackboard and continued his lecture. He completely ignored my objection and just carried on as though my revelation was irrelevant. Discouraged but not dissuaded, I knew he could pretend nothing happened, but I'd found a fatal flaw in his model, and this was just the beginning.